Hello. With the World Athletics Championships taking place in Eugene, Oregon right now, I felt it was time to do another video on running. And of course I have to start by saying a huge congratulations to Jake Wightman, not just on becoming world champion, winning the gold medal, running a very fast time, beating the reigning Olympic champion, but running a superbly judged race. Backed up by Josh Kerr and many others who are making great strides, middle distance running in the UK is now back to world-class level where it used to be in the 1980s. Jake Wightman is coached by his father, Jeff Wightman, who was a good runner back in the 1980s and 90s. He was 6th in the European Marathon Championship in 1990. And on the subject of marathon running, I also watched the men's World Championship Marathon with both great interest and some disappointment. Tamirit Tola was very impressive as he surged away from a group of leaders to win the race in 2 hours, 5 minutes and 36 seconds, with lots and lots of fast times behind him. The good running conditions sadly did not help UK's Josh Griffiths, who finished 49th in 2 hours, 17 minutes and 37 seconds. I found this very disappointing. I am sure that Josh Griffiths is even more disappointed than I am, but just generally speaking, I am disappointed with the state of British marathon running. I find it so disappointing that Great Britain was only able to field one runner. We only qualified 2 runners. The qualifying standard for the marathon for men at the World Championships is 2 hours 11 minutes 30 seconds. Josh Griffiths got in narrowly by running 2 hours 11:24, and the other member of the British team to make it was Chris Thompson with a best time of 2 hours 10:52. Chris Thompson didn't run because of visa difficulties, just paperwork, so we only had one runner, and sadly he ran about 6 minutes slower than his best time. I don't know why. I'm sure he's very disappointed, and I'm not here to criticise him at all. I'm just saying the state of British marathon running is depressing. In the 1980s it was much higher, as it was in the middle distance. The middle distance for Britain is back up there. Sadly, marathon running is not. 38 years ago, in 1984, all 3 members of the Great Britain team for the marathon at the Los Angeles Olympics had to run a 2:09 marathon just to make the team. The world record at the time was 2 hours 8 minutes 18. So Britain had 3 runners who were averaging about 1.5 minutes shy of the world record. Why have things declined so much? I wish I could give a definitive answer to that, but I don't really know. I ran my best time 37 years ago, and only Mo Farah, Steve Jones and Callum Hawkins among Britons have run faster since. I'm not saying this to boast, I'm saying this because I'm concerned. By now, lots of British runners should be running faster than I did all those years ago. So what's wrong with British marathon running? Perhaps people feel it's a pointless pursuit because the East Africans dominate so strongly. Perhaps they think there's no chance of getting close to them, and so try and do something else and don't put the effort in. On the world stage, that certainly may be true, but a good runner, well prepared, could still win medals in a European Championship marathon or a Commonwealth Games marathon. After all, if it wasn't for the excessive heat that it did for him in the last mile or so, Callum Hawkins would have won the Commonwealth Games marathon in 2018. The middle distance runners are now comparable with those of the 80s. The marathon runners are clearly not, and I believe a good runner's performance in the marathon is dependent on his 10,000 metre performance. I believe the fundamentals I'm going to talk about apply pretty much equally to men and women, but I'm going to quote men's performances. A marathon is 42.1 kilometres. You could express that as 4 times 10 kilometres with another 2.1 kilometres stuck on the end. Obviously, you cannot run 4 consecutive 10 kilometres at your best 10 kilometre pace. But how close to that speed can you go and should you go? If you're a decent 10k runner, but not quite fast enough, and you think, I'll move up to the marathon because I'm strong and I'm tough and I'm sure I'll do better there. if you think that, you may be interested in this. This is a table I have created comparing 6 marathon runners. I included myself and my adversary and pal Steve Jones, Mo Farah, Eliud Kipchoge, Tamarit Tola, who has just become the world champion, and Josh Griffiths, who ran in the World Championships. The first column of numbers is each individual's personal best for the marathon. The next column is the personal best for 10 kilometres. And the marathon pace column, this is the pace per 10 kilometres of each individual's best marathon. So if you take the time of an individual's best marathon, divide it by 4.21, you get the time that represents the average pace per 10k in that marathon. The point of this is to compare the pace people run the marathon at per 10k and that individual's best 10k, and that is what the difference column is. My 28:08 compares to a 30:31 average in my best marathon, which is 2 minutes and 23 seconds. For Steve Jones, who ran a good bit faster than me at both events, his average in the marathon was 30 minutes 12 per 10k, when he could run 27:39 for a single 10k on the track, and his difference was 2 minutes 33. The difference between Mo Farah's best 10k and the average in the marathon is 2 minutes 56. Now Mo Farah was a much better 10k runner than marathon runner. He did not perform as well at the marathon as he did at 10k, and there are plenty of 10k runners like that who are brilliant at 10k, can't translate that as an equivalent performance in the marathon. So his difference is 2:56. Now below him, Eliud Kipchoge, who is the world record holder for the marathon. His official world record is 2:01:39. His best for 10k, 26:49. The difference between his average marathon pace and his best 10k is an extraordinary 2 minutes and 4 seconds. Now I think he is an absolute outlier. He is an extraordinary marathon runner, and his 2 minutes 4 seconds is very unusual. Tamarit Tola, who has just become world champion, the difference between his best 10k and his marathon 10k pace is 2:24. Josh Griffiths, who represented Great Britain in the World Championships, the difference between his best 10k and his marathon 10k average is 2:32. Mo Farah is an outlier because he is not as good at the marathon as 10k. Kipchoge is an outlier because he is the world's greatest marathon runner ever. The other 4 marathon runners I've listed run at 2.5 minutes slower per 10k than their best 10k pace. And I've done this for lots of different people, and it all works out around 2.5 minutes. If we look again at Josh Griffiths and his best 10k, it is 28 minutes 41 seconds. If we go up the column to Steve Jones, his best 10k is 27:39. That's almost exactly 1 minute faster. If we look at Griffiths' best marathon time, 2:11:24, and then Steve Jones, 2:07:13, 4 minutes faster. So, if you can improve your own 10k by 1 minute, you can improve your own marathon performance by 4 minutes. That is something that cannot be ignored. Successful marathon running is the ability to hold a fast pace for a long time. So is 10,000 metre running. But in the 10,000 metres, obviously, you hold a faster pace for a shorter time. But the principle is exactly the same, and the physiology is the same. This is only my advice, but my advice to competitive marathon runners is to become the best you can at 10,000 metres before you move to the marathon. And when you are peaking for your marathon competition, be able to run very close to your best 10k. The marathon is a race. It goes to the fastest runner, not to the strongest or the toughest runner, but the fastest. And if you're running at a high level of competition, you are competing with people who are good marathon runners, and every single one of them is tough and strong, and thinking you're tough and strong is not going to give you an advantage over them. It is the speed you can maintain that is the deciding factor in how well you run a marathon.